Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parasha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet in the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation on Emet, but joining me,
You're not in the you're not in
I'm
the
at the Anshe Chesed Synagogue. what's the official congregation?
Anshe Chesed.
Anshe
It's
Chesed.
just I changed it. A little. I'll tell you a little funny story. We were always it was always Congregation Anshe Chesed in any alphabetical list of synagogues in New York. It was always B'nai Jeshurun and then Congregation Anshe Chesed. The way
Uh,
drop congregation, and now we're Anshe Chesed and we're the first. And we're the first in any alphabetical list.
Here we go. So we are at Anshe Chesed. I happen to be in the city today, and it's great. It's great always to pop in on Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanowski, Anshe Chesed, and our long lost friend in Long Island, Rabbi Barry J. Chesler, Solomon Sheikh, the Day School of Long Island. We're recording this on day 706 of the war. The news is just anguishing day after day. We are a day after the attack in Qatar, and the literal fallout of that is still
It's just
oh,
unbelievable.
just
And a
just
day of violence in the United States.
And a
yeah.
crazy day of violence in the United States that always has a little bit of the we're gonna today, as we're recording this, a sort of right-wing political activist was assassinated, and you just fear that we go down the spiral of madness and increasing attacks. And
It's we're in a very difficult time, and we are also counting down literally less than 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. And that brings us to Ki Tavo. Ki Tavo is always during this time, and it's so interesting, you know, thinking about this parsha. We're also thinking about concluding themes and themes of renewal. So I want to turn to the opening parts of this parsha, namely the bikurim, the first fruits. I want to ask about the experience of the first fruit, and get your take on it. So Barry, you explain to what do you think
So
is going
the
on?
first fruits come at the beginning of the wheat harvest, probably in early June. It's identified with the holiday of Shavuot, which is referred to as Yom Bikurim in one of the biblical books, I think Vayikra. And the farmer not only brings his first fruits in a basket to the local priest, is the plain meaning of the text, not the one that the rabbis necessarily went by, and makes a declaration declaring that his ancestor was a wandering Aramean who went down into Egypt, few in number, became a great nation, was enslaved and embittered, and God heard the outcry of the people, and God miraculously took the people out of Egypt into the land that he had promised their ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And the first fruits then are a sign of God fulfilling his promise. And what struck me this year in reading the passage is that the farmer makes this declaration dafka when he brings the first fruits, not at the harvest in the fall, which might make more sense because I think embedded in the ritual is this idea of longing, that the first fruits are a kind of guarantee, a promise that there will be a successful fall harvest.
So it's
And
just
yeah, so I just want to finish by saying that I think an important part of life is longing, working towards something. In the words of the late great Harry Chapin, it's not the getting there, but the going that must be good. And this is kind of the biblical going.
I
And
have it.
segues nicely into your comment about
Yeah.
Seitzah U'Be'echa, but
Well,
go.
we'll talk about that in a second, but I have a slightly different take on it because my reaction to the Pilgrims Bikurim is what a great sense of accomplishment. And this is it's not that I am a farmer, not that I mean I think I've shared in the past that my closest experience is growing basil in my garden, right? And like
That's
wow.
heavy lifting.
The experience of cutting a leaf of basil and then putting it in your whatever
in your
tomatoes,
pasta, yeah.
yeah, what an experience. But I can anticipate that there's tremendous joy in seeing that something pops out. Look, I live not far from several New Jersey farms. I go to the farm stands during the season. We're in a wonderful season where tomatoes, they're just, I mean, New Jersey tomatoes, that's what it is. And there's beautiful corn and everything. And I interact with the people at the farm center, our local farm market in Highland Park every Friday, go make sure I buy, a few things. And there's just a sense of joy that people have and gratitude
There
for
is,
making money.
except
Right?
the
Yeah.
first fruits are not enough to sustain you.
Okay.
And I think it's important to keep that in mind. It's sort of like when you run a marathon, which I have yet to do and probably will not make in this lifetime, but I'm hopeful in the next world, that when you get to the first mile, that's a great sense of accomplishment, but you still have a long way to go. And I think the first fruits is kind of a similar process. You're celebrating, of course, and you are joyful because you do have something to show for your work to date, but so much hard work remains. And the question is, what is your attitude going to be? Because there are going to be bumps along the road. No farmer has every day a good day throughout the season, and you need something to sustain you during those difficult summer days when things might not look so promising. And
Yeah.
I think that's what the first fruits are designed to do, to sustain you through the dark days of the summer, which will inevitably come.
The the rabbinic imagination about bringing bikurim is what you said is certainly correct, and my experience with farming is even less than yours.
I
But
was on kibbutz for 5.5 months,
Oh,
so I'm an expert.
wow. Good for you.
so I do go to the grocery store.
There you go. Okay.
But
Well, yeah, yeah.
but
It's practically a farm.
but my experience is none, and so I think that what you said makes perfect sense. But the Mishnah in the third chapter of Bikurim of bringing the first fruits is
Good
just
evening and
spectacular.
welcome to Schechter School of Long Island. All ninth grade parents, please
Hey,
begin
just
moving
getting
into
an
the gym
announcement here
at this
from
time.
Salmon Schechter School.
All
Just a
ninth
pause
grade
here.
parents, please move into the gym.
You don't have the ninth grade.
No,
Okay,
thank
good.
God.
Okay. So in the third chapter in Bikurim is a fabulous description of a celebration and a party. How does one set aside Bikurim? You go into the field and you see, for example, a fig. Now they're not imagining the wheat, which I think is the natural meaning of the text, but you see the first cluster of grapes or the first figs, and you tie a little ribbon on it and say, "I hereby declare these are my Bikurim." And then you go up to Jerusalem and there was a system which was called ma'amadot in those days. Kohanim in different regions would take turns serving in the temple, and whatever they went to their local, I guess you'd call it like county seat or something like that, and there's singing and dancing all night long in the streets, and they say, "Kumu v'na'alet Zion el Beit Adonai Eloheinu," let us arise and go up to Zion in the house of the Lord our God, and then they come in and they would bring fresh. Those who live near Jerusalem would bring fresh figs and grapes. Those who live far away would bring dried fruit and grapes. And an ox would go before them, his horns be decked with gold, and a crown of olive branches on his head, and they would play the flute. And when they would get to Jerusalem, they would send messengers, and everybody would greet them, and they would say, "Achenu anshe makom ploni, batem l'shalom." We're so glad that you are here in peace. That's like a fabulous, fabulous.
It is, but I think we can agree as modern critical readers of the Mishnah that this is an imagined Bikurim procession. Because the reality for the rabbis is this passage about Bikurim is not about the first harvest at Shavuot, it's about the redemption at Pesach, right? This is the heart of the Haggadah. And I think that when we think about the shift of Bikurim, the reading of Armio Vedavi from Shavuot to Pesach, is Pesach also is a beginning that comes with a promise, because now Shavuot is going to be the holiday of revelation, and what's going to complete the redemption from Egypt is going to be the redemption. Is going to be the revelation. And I think that there's a sense of longing, which is expressed by our counting of the Omer, quite differently than the Torah imagines it to be. And it just seems to me that sometimes perhaps we need to pay attention to this dimension of life.
Well, I think we sitting in the diaspora are missing one essential point of this passage, which is the land, the land. You
Well,
have
that's imagined also.
Vayitin lanu et haaretz hazot. The pilgrim is standing on this land. Eretz avat chalav udvash. Vayivienu el makom hazeh. He brought us to this place. Vayitin lanu et haaretz hazot. He gave us this land. And so we, living in the diaspora, we, as part of a minority, we who are not necessarily tied to land, although we have connection and we have all sorts of associations to landscape and surroundings, etc. But we are, as Jews, deeply aware of our transience.
So what it suggests to me, your answer, I don't know if you intended it, is that revelation becomes the defining moment of Judaism once there's a broken attachment to the land.
Of course,
Because
and then
in the
Talmud.
land and in our ritual of Bikurim, there's no mention of giving of the Torah. We go
Yeah.
straight from Egypt to the entrance into the land. And maybe, and again, there's that shift which is expressed in a kind of longing, because we long now for the second redemption, the great redemption, because we are transient in this world.
I feel that this what your observation that you just made about the sundering of the connection to the land. You can see how so many of we've always had mitzvot tzluyot ba'aretz. We've always had an unbroken Jewish community since the time of Abraham living in Eretz Yisrael. But it is fair to say that for the vast, vast, vast majority of Jews, whether they lived in Baghdad and Aleppo or Cairo and Casablanca or Lodz and
Bialystok.
Warsaw. It was an entirely emotional and imagined thing, not a practical thing. And so revelation in the portable homeland of the book
100%.
It makes so much sense. And let's be honest and say that the relationship that we have since the massive return to the land is sometimes been pretty screwed up.
It's a complicated relationship, but it's the land. And Deuteronomy's program, Dvarim, is a nation on the land. And it's overwhelming as the theme. You are coming into like Ki Tavo ela aretz. Sof pasu. You could stop the whole
Yes. Nachmanides unbelievably, and he said this in Vayikra, although it's even more true in Devarim, that the whole point is exactly that learning all the mitzvot is for when you get to the land. Nachmanides actually thinks that outside the land of Israel, all the mitzvot are basically kind of derabanan.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move to another one. I want to. It's a favorite pasuk. I'm sure we've talked about it again, but I want to see it in a different set of eyes. This is chapter 27, verse 9 through 10. Vayidaber Moshe v'Kohanim Alevim el kol Yisrael. So Moses and the Kohanim, the Levitical priests, speak to all of Israel, saying, Hasket u'shma Yisrael hayom hazeh niyeta la'am. Shah, quiet, silence. Hear, Israel, today, hayom hazeh niyeta, you have become a people, l'Adonai Elohecha, to God. V'shamata b'kol Adonai, listen to his voice, Elohecha, v'asita et mitzvotav, and do his mitzvot, v'chukotav, and his laws, asher anochi mitzvcha hayom. So, that I command you this day. Hasketu shma, my first reaction on this reading is like, we're so connected to Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And I try to kind of do a thought experiment if we changed the liturgy to put Hasketu Shema Yisrael Hayom Hazeh Niyeta La'am L'Adonai Elohecha, and it's like, imagine that's what the liturgical statement is. It's coming at the end of the whole Torah. So you say, today you are a people. So leaving aside the silence, I'm struck by, and here I have my thinking for the holidays, but it's Hayom hazeh niyeta le blank. Today you are fill in
Fountain pen.
a fountain pen, exactly. But it sounds like this is a graduation statement. It's saying, here you are, people of Israel. You are standing at the Jordan. You're going to graduate, and now you are a people. And there's so many types of becoming in life. This is the one moment that they are a people, and it's it's worth pausing on.
But what is it? What is it? I mean, what do you think is being? Is it just poetic exaggeration to say today you become a people, but you haven't been a people at Sinai and you haven't been a people at? I mean, because the graduation thing, of course, it is real, and this is a covenant. This is a covenantal assertion, um, both in the you know Aramio Veravi
Yeah.
passage and in the blessings and curses that will be given here on Har Gerizim and Harival. And it is a foreshadowing of the covenant renewal ceremony that Joshua will make at the end of that book. But it is, I think, poetic exaggeration to say because they were a people at Sinai and
Well, except
they were certainly. How about when Bilam says,
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I'm
I'm
Kali.
Bnei Israel, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it just strikes me as a little odd.
I think what supports Eliot's point of view, though, is that the covenant here is distinguished from the covenant at Chorev. In the, I can't remember, I think it was Rashi who mentions it in one of his comments. And so there is a sense that what's happening now in Devarim on the east side of the Jordan is not just a continuation of what happened at Sinai, but something different. And so it could be a graduation, and Sinai perhaps is kind of like a middle school graduation, perhaps, or an entrance into kindergarten.
I'll tell you why I'm focused on this because, I've spent some time in Israel this summer and in the Harman Institute, and the question that kept coming up was, what are we going to become? What are we? And I find that I'm thinking about that certainly as we come into the new year. I'll probably make a sermon on it or not, who knows? Because we're only 14 days away, and
Why would you have to worry about that now?
yeah, seriously, why? It's not till 12 hours before that but it's like, so the question is, what are you becoming? What are you going to become? And I'm thinking of the Shlomo Aruch, "Pitom kam adam baboker u'margish k'am." A person woke up in the morning and he felt like he was a people, and that's the Zionist story that you are a people now. And what does that mean? And what's profound about it? But let me get to the second one, which is V'shamata b'kol Adonai Alecha. You'll hear Vasita, Vishamata, Vasita. Okay, Jeremy Kalmanowski, Rabbi Jeremy. Vishamata, Vasita sounds a lot like
Na'aseh
Mishma.
v'nishma.
Okay, so right, you don't have to be rabbis to figure that out. I didn't see that until Vishama. So it's an echo of Sinai here, and maybe that's what you're saying, Barry, which is this is a covenantal moment, and the people are becoming a people simply by their echoing of their commitment in the sense you have to do this. Vishamata vasita.
And perhaps the emphasis is on the becoming, which will continue. That, in other words, you're not ever a people forever. You are always becoming a people.
Yeah.
This is very attractive because, this is in Western thought, the distinction between, becoming and being is profound and it reminds me of a thing that's attributed to the Kotzker Rebbe, let's assume. This is why isn't it we call Shavuot Matan Torah
Mhm.
and not Kabbalat Torah? Because Matan Torah, well, the gift of Torah, the revelation of Torah, the gift of Torah happened once, but Kabbalat Torah happens every day. Every day you have to
Right.
accept it.
Yeah.
So perhaps it is something like this. It's not that the juridical status, the covenantal partnership, all that has been going on throughout. I mean, the Exodus 19 through 24 really makes no sense if that is not the covenantal moment. But it is also true that even even an enduring covenant, it requires active affirmation all the time. And so this rhetoric, which I'm not inclined to think that this is a kind of a different juridical status. I'm just inclined to think it's poetic oomph that you know what, guys, commit yourselves, and that's what makes you a people.
And it's a good statement to end your valedictory speech, your speech in front of the people. It's like today it's it. And tomorrow, today is it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Tomorrow is also today.
All right. So let's turn to the last third of our talk, which is blessings and curses. And I want to focus on blessings because let's face it.
They're more fun. Well, we actually spent a ton more time talking about curses this week.
Exactly. So here's what happens if you do the mitzvot, if you listen to them. Uvao alecha kol habrachot ha'ela v'yisikucha. All the blessings shall come upon you, chapter 28, verse 2, and they take effect. They'll catch up to you. I love that idea that the blessings are following you and they catch up to you. If you will but heed the word of the Lord your God, fine. Okay, ki tishma. I mean, fine. Yeah, of course. Ki tishma, because then I want to sing it almost like Shir Hashiv, Baruch atah ba'ir, Baruch atah b'sadeh, Baruch privit necha uvri admatecha, ufri v'emtecha shegar lafecha v'shtrot zonecha, meaning, blessed shall you be in the city, blessed shall you be in the country, blessed the issue of your womb, the produce of your soil, the offspring of your cattle, the calving of your herd, the lambing of your flock. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed shall you be in your comings. Blessed shall you be in your goings. Baruch atah bivoecha uvaruch atah b'tzeitecha. Okay, so that's lovely. That's beautiful.
It's a little less. It is beautiful. Maybe a little less beautiful than Shir Hashirim. Oh, you are a lily of the valley. May the calving of your flock and the lambing of your what
Your sheep, the lambing of your flock,
lambing.
the lambing of your flock, calving of your herd and lambing of your flock.
Who heard a word like lambing?
The lambing, it's your lambing. The point, I'm moved by it. I think that anytime we give blessing or receive blessing, it's profoundly moving. And I want to suggest here, I guess the obvious, which is not a suggestion, which is this is the totality of your life. The city, the field, everything, your productivity, namely your personal fertility and the fertility of your animals and uh your basket. Blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl, right? And then the last line, which I'm very drawn to in terms of homiletics, which is blessed are you when you come in and blessed are when you go out. And the reason why I'm drawn to it homiletically is because I hear in my biblical ear and the inverse of this. So there's boecha v'tzetecha coming
Which is
in.
clarify what you think the more important is.
I'm not sure what the more important is, and this is what I need. I'm working this through.
Okay, so this is what strikes
Work
me.
with me.
So Baruch atah ba'ir.
I want to. I want to
Wait,
just show the inverse is, boecha v'tzetecha is what it says here, coming and going, or entering and leaving, and then there's leaving and entering, which is at the end of Psalm 121, which we've been reciting the whole year or 2 years since the war. Started Adonai Yishmor Tzeitcha Uvoecha Me'atav. May God guard your going out and coming forth for now and all eternity. And I'm struck by the fact that these are two very similar things, but one is an inversion of the other. And what that means is that maybe there's something different. Okay. So my pitch to you is as follows. Entry and exit is speaking about space, the internal space, and using, as broadly speaking, home as the idea. I come into a space and I leave a space. I usually think about that as home. Baruch atah b'voecha, Baruch atah b'tzeitecha. Blessed where you come in, I welcome you. Blessed where you go out, you're going out. Yishmor Adonai tzeitcha uvoecha is journey. May you be blessed. May God guard you b'tzeitcha when you leave and when you return. So I'm thinking about this as follows, okay, which is uh, all of us have had the experience of standing at the gate as your kid goes on the airplane, okay, or standing at the door as your kid leaves home, or being yourself the kid who leaves home and says goodbye to your parents, okay? And that moment of departure is a moment back to longing, and it's the one anxiety that you have is you're coming back. I hope you're coming back. I know you're coming back. I want to see you when you come back. Okay, that's Seit Chavoecha. That's life as a journey. Okay,
it may not be. By the way, the parent does worry that I hope you come back or I want you to come back. But it may also be I hope you make it back because we don't this is all in a package. The blessings of abundance. It's just really, really hard for us to imagine what ancient people put into
Exactly.
what kind of vulnerability about food sources or their animals or whatever. It's very hard for us to imagine. We, you know, when I get paid, I open up my bank, I open up the app, and I see that somebody has made the numbers in my bank
Yeah,
account.
really.
No, they had to, as Barry was describing, work incredibly hard under incredibly, iffy conditions. And so if you have that journey thing, blessed Yishmoah Adonai Yishmoah Tzedkecha V'oecha Me'at Aviad Olam, is like, go out there, and I really hope you make it back.
Yeah, I hope you make it back. And I think they're two fundamentally different metaphors or stories that we have in our lives. One story in our life is we live in our homes, we live in our cities, we live in our spaces, and we want to be blessed in our spaces. And the other one is we want to be protected on our journeys, and we live our lives really as a journey. So the master arc of the Jewish people is Yitziat Mitzrayim veheveta. It's in the first passage that we recited, right? It's you took me out of Egypt. You back to the Arami Oved. It says vayotzienu Adonai Mitzrayim. You took us out. Vayivienu. You brought us. So that's the same. It's so commonplace, but we take it for granted. Yitziah and bi'ah. You went out and you brought us. That's the master story of the Torah.
Right.
You took us out of Egypt. You brought us into land. However, so it's you see the verbs in Avraham, vayetze, vayavo, and you see the verbs in many other places. The inverse is Noah. Noah, God says to Noah, Bo el teva, and he's cooped up in the teva, in the ark, and then God says, Tzeh min teva, get out of there. And what happens on the ark? Well, a lot.
What's also, by the way, when Moses says, I got to retire,
Yeah.
lo uchal
Latzet
latzet velavo.
velavo. Exactly. He uses it in that way. So that tells me another thing. Latzet velavo is about living in life.
So I want to offer a slightly different interpretation, and that is that Baruch atah b'orecha, Baruch atah b'tzeitacha is a kind of a prayer about our lives. We want to be blessed when we're brought into the world, and we want to be blessed when we leave the world.
Yeah.
And that is a journey that we make once. The Tzedkecha V'oecha is the metaphor of return. It's about coming home. What's important about the Exodus is we're not going to someplace new. We're going to the great line in Rocky Mountain High about being born in the 27th year to a place I've never been, going home to a place I've never been before.
Home to a place I've
Well,
never been
so
Right. And that's what this journey is about. That when we come to the land, we are actually coming to an old land, not a new land.
there's a mature theme. This is for mature listeners only. And one of the midrashim on Baruch atah b'voecha.
Well, you did that with the Yitzhak too.
Yeah, well, no. So for the sake of Torah here, we will express this. It says, "May your wife not be in the state of nidah as you return home."
Because for our listeners who are a little bit less into the idiom of Hebrew, and it's different than English, lavo, to come to, not putting too fine a point on that one, is a
To
sexual
engage in
metaphor.
sexual conjugation. So it's in the most literal interpretation is, may your wife be sexually available to you as you return from your journey. Okay. Now I'm not sure. I've read this over and over, and I'm thinking like, is he being serious here? Is it a little joke? Is it humor? Is it or should we take it as Torah, which is any way you want to?
I think I would characterize most of midrashic stuff like that as they're playing, but they're serious. In other words,
Okay.
they're not joking, but they are playing with the space that exists in these words. It also reminds me, by the way, let's say "Lavo, tzedcha v'oecha." It reminds me a little bit of the Jacob in the dream. With the angels are olim v'yordim bo.
Sure.
They're going up and down. We don't say going down and up, even though that kind of fits the context of the narrative there better in Genesis. But here we say, let's say "Lavo."
That's it.
Yeah.
So you're saying you're saying it's the idiom, but I'm saying the idiom exists for a fine purpose, and I've been very very captivated by the idea that we use a lot of metaphors in the way we speak, and of course in the way we teach Torah, and of course the Torah itself, and the metaphor of home versus the metaphor of journey are two very very powerful metaphors that are metaphors for life. So now here I'm doing the homily. Okay, the sermon is you're coming home, right? So Rosh Hashanah is coming, and for many of our people, it is about coming home. I had a lovely conversation with a Jew who said, you know, as this person became aware that I was a rabbi, and I said, yeah, I'm worried about the holidays. I'm preparing, and she said, your preparation and my preparation are different. Your preparation is about sermons. My preparation is who is coming home, you know. And in that moment, it was so profound because it's like so true. Most of the world, the Jewish world, they're experiencing these moments as Baruch atah bevoecha. Yeah, you're coming home.
So maybe the existential question of the high holidays is, do I have a home to come to?
Okay. And then it's also, am I going on a journey after this? You know, so Yishmor Adonai Tzeitcha Voecha. It's not only, you know, your exit from this place, but it's like you're going into life now. And you know, I say it emotionally. I feel very emotional about it. We want you back. I say I feel it the same way that I feel standing and saying goodbye to your kid and saying I'm saying goodbye, and I'm saying with joy. May you go with all the love and blessings, but I'd like to see you back here.
Right, because when you want to see someone back, it means they've been there already once before.
Absolutely. This is
And
very
that's an important thing to remember because not everyone feels at home when they come to Shul on Rosh Hashanah and Yom
true.
Kippur.
Yeah.
And our task as rabbis is to make everyone feel at home.
Well, we hope people, you know, we hope people feel at home with us here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're going to do the sign off now
So
because
you got to
we
go
got
to
to parent
parent
teacher
teacher nights.
interviews. Okay,
Yes. Thank you.
listen, it's been a pleasure. We got one more before Rosh Hashanah. We're going to get one more in, I think. So
Good.
until then, everyone, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Peace for everybody. See you next week on the next edition of the Parsha Talk. Bye bye.